Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I'm not sure how this is going to sound because I just had 3 good old gin and tonics with some friends, but I got to get this done. And listen, this is all about Valentine's. It's all about love. It's all about sex. Quite honestly, in the last decade or two, Valentine's Day gets a lot of villainization. I mean, it was always about celebrating your love or the love of your life. It wasn't about the only day you could do it. It was just a day to remind you. And I'm here to remind you about some of those fantastic couples, the best Valentine's couples that we grew up with in the 70s, 80s. I'm talking about the sexiest couples of 70s and 80s television. Those couples that we kind of based all our relationships off of. Those couples that we looked at and hoped that's exactly how we wanted to be. So as we move forward, I just want you to remember one thing. I hope you'll all be my Valentine. I'm Victor, and straight out of the Gen Experience, our television couples who exuded sexual energy and always gave us something to talk about. And they're still being talked about today. These 70s and 80s couples are each other's perfect Valentines. So if you're ready to get hot under the collar, let's go. We'll start with something light, with a couple whose consummation was never confirmed, but the tension starts in episode 2. Tony Danza and Judith Light manage a steamier will they won't they sexual tense relationship than Sam and Diane ever could. Even being a light comedy, the producers got the tension just right, making sure to never lose momentum by ending each season with a hot cliffhanger. Beginning with the fateful moment Tony sees Angela naked out of the shower in season 1 to I love yous being uttered before midnight in season 7, because a fortune teller told Tony he might lose his love if he didn't. Who's the Boss felt like a vehicle for Alyssa Milano and Tony at first, but besides the witty zingers by Angela's own mother, played beautifully by Soap's Katherine Hellman, it was the sexual frustration between the employee and employer that never failed to ignite every single season. There were plenty of opportunities, but the showrunners kept the audience wanting more, and perhaps that was the secret to this charming 80s sitcom's long run. However, you gotta think that the series finale moment sealed the deal. At least, we can imagine it did. It's like the producers knew that the magic of the show might end if this affair came to fruition. But the show didn't continue after its 8th season.
You got the job.
Now, let's keep moving up the juicy scale.
No kidding.
I never really cared about who was the boss, but I wanted to know who Remington Steele was and why he totally stepped in on Laura Holt's action. Who else loved this show? It was one of my favorites. A female dick gets little attention until she makes up a man's name for her business. When a mysterious gentleman suddenly appears saying it's his name, voila, they are thrust together in an action comedy romantic detective show. You'll see that a lot of these hour-long primetime programs never fell into one clear genre, but a mix of many that fit the situation just right. Remington Steele did solve mysteries, and they did it with action, humor, and romance. Stephanie Zimbalist's Laura was beautiful. Not dynasty glamour, but a down-to-earth characterization of feminine strength. And there was just something about her voice.
Now I do the work and he takes the bows.
She was all woman, without the female trope trappings easily depicted at the time. Pierce Brosnan's breakout role had Steele playing debonair 24/7. It was like he was auditioning for James Bond from the get-go. The chemistry was there out the gate, and the fun flirting would grow over time. The audience saw the romance even before the starring duo, and both looked top drawer whether in Hollywood glam or dressed down for a little undercover work. Just when you think something might blossom between the two, a dead body suddenly interrupts the action and Laura runs off, leaving Steele to pick it up later, which he would. Their secretary Mildred Krebs, played by the incomparable Doris Roberts, was key to their success as a former IRS agent who was discharged having way too much fun with the detectives. And she loved being dragged into cases. I was still pretty young when the show started in 1982, but it wouldn't be long before I noticed the fireworks beneath the surface, even if I didn't recognize sexual tension because, well, I didn't have a term for that yet. The show ran for 5 seasons, but the characters would not deal with their affections head-on until the 4th season. After years of posing as a couple or flirting with disaster, they tie the knot just to keep Steele in the country. But in the series finale, they do the dirty and they finally realize what they've been ignoring all these years. It was real. But the show was canceled. Was that the fate for couples who finally did the deed? Actually, in a rare decision by a network, Remington Steele was saved for an abbreviated 5th season. And without any awkwardness, they continued their hijinks, married and all. They just kept up the same shtick from before, neither ignoring or spotlighting their nuptials. The show was able to exit on their own terms, without killing the chemistry that made it so great to begin with. This next couple was out of this world and never did it. Well, as far as we were led on to believe. But they had so much sex appeal we wish they had and couldn't believe they didn't. The only sci-fi on our list, Buck Rogers squeezed into some of those costumes like a stuffed sausage and was undoubtedly a dog for the series. But Wilma Deering wasn't put into those painted-on uniforms and colorful crop tops with hot pants to prove she could fly a starship. If you didn't see the sexuality, you need your eyes checked. There was enough sexual tension between this cosmic couple to charge an entire fleet of electric cars in every 60-minute episode. Right off the bat, we witnessed Gil Gerard's Buck deliver the charm, and as usual, Aaron Gray's Wilma dismisses it with distaste for such a rogue scoundrel. Think Princess Leia and Han Solo. She's a colonel with rank and class, not to mention a beat body, and is put in charge of this gigolo of a pilot lost in time, and not hard on the eyes. They were a typical love and hate pair for most of the first season, playing off sly flirtation and sassy cock-blocking in a way that the audiences wanted them to get together. But the showrunners wouldn't have it. They'd be fools to neuter Buck's sexual nature with settling down. Like Captain Kirk, Buck had to avoid commitment so that every episode he had a reason to take his clothes off and win the day by winning over the space princess. They were careful to keep the flirtation between the two of them constant, especially when she took on the flaky space flight attendant look, and Buck went all cosmic pirate to better bed a denizen of alien females. But having them bump uglies was not in the cards for this family series, and might cause some bumps between the characters that would ultimately tie the hands of creativity moving ahead. Of course, moving ahead wasn't in the cards, since this series, as memorable as it was, only lasted 2 seasons. There might be many of you who, even growing up in the same generation as I, may not remember this 1987 fever dream. But for some of you, it may have convinced you there was an entire civilization living in the underground, the sewers of New York City. Not those sewer dwellers. After Terminator, Linda Hamilton starred in a much softer role beside a monster of a man. After a brutal attack by a gang, Catherine, the beauty, is rescued by a mysterious individual. One with very feline features that only got more big cat-like when enraged. Her encounter with Vincent, the Beast, has her taking on a job as an assistant DA, where she is better equipped to help clean up the streets in this fantasy romantic crime drama. She's also able to help those who live outside the norm, those who exist below, in the shadows. Vincent becomes a great help to Catherine, an informant of sorts who lays down on the top of subway cars to travel the city, and with that, romance blossoms over 2 seasons. Their love affair was very real, but blatantly exploring it may have seemed a bit taboo for an 80s audience who might cry, "Bestiality!" However, Vincent was all man, a man with a disfigurement and a penchant for wearing Shakespearean attire. He lived as a noble man-beast with others in subterranean tunnels and would venture out when Catherine, whose job often put her in peril, would need the necessary romantic guardian angel to appear to rescue her and continue the fairy tale narrative. Ron Perlman was Vincent, and Rick Baker brought him to life with a Bon Jovi wig and a little prosthetics. However, with such a perfect canvas, very little had to be done to that face. Long before Disney's 1991 animated film, this fairy tale, written by R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame, did not include a transformation of the beast, but one where at the top of the 3rd season, Catherine bears Vincent's son. Yeah, they did the dirty. And then she's dead. Punished for her unnatural attraction and animal lust? Nope. Linda was herself pregnant, and there was also that further adventure of Sarah Connor that she needed to attend to. The show was mysterious, and the drama? Melodramatic. Many moms loved it. Mine did. But by the 3rd season, the changes were too much. It lost its audience, and the fairy tale ended. Alright, I couldn't resist this couple. If anything goes when celebrating Valentine's Day today, then why not the most famous bromance of Gen X? They patrolled the streets of fictional Bay City for just 4 seasons, but studly buddy cops David Starsky and Kenneth Hutch Hutchinson still bromanced their way into television history. Millions of women swooned and countless men stirred when a new depiction of cops appeared on screen. In 1975, Starsky and Hutch rewrote the formula for police procedurals with starring characters featuring a deep, emotional, and intensely loyal bond between them. Their on-screen chemistry of witty banter, genuine care, and the many times they were partially naked was rooted in real-life relationships, not the ones that had been seen in Dragnet or Adam 12 before. The macho headliners of Banachek, McCloud, or Kojak were being replaced with men who actually spoke to one another, saved each other's asses outside of work, asked for relationship advice, or gave it when the other wasn't even asking. You have to admit that 2 men who spend years sitting side by side in an awesome tomato red Gran Torino are going to get to know each other, and the late 70s was a perfect time to showcase it. This was an action-adventure romantic comedy drama. It had everything, and shows like Chips and Barney Miller caught on fast, breaking the mold of lone wolf type lawman that could never give the bromo magic of Starsky and Hutch. So, I have no doubt these 2 belong on our Valentine's list of best TV couples.
Great! Now we're breaking and entering.
I bet you thought these 2 would be at the top. Well, it was a tough call, and perhaps the drama behind the scenes of Moonlighting kept them from being number 1 on my list. Or maybe it's just because my definition of sexy might be different from yours. But there is no denying the sex appeal and the tension between this hot couple on stage and off. Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd sold it, and we were buying every episode of the flirtatious fun in the romantic comedy crime drama Moonlighting. Moonlighting is in a league of its own. Although the show was about solving crimes, that was dressing on the side. Very little work was done on cases, but they were solved nevertheless. In the final moments, something would dawn on someone and they would crack the case. But that really wasn't all that important, was it? No, it was the relationship, the zany shenanigans of the polar opposite partners at the Blue Moon Detective Agency, and their complete animosity toward one another. Outdoing each other with one-liners and quick comebacks seemed to be more important to them than getting to the bottom of a mystery, and the audiences ate it up because they were invested in where this was all going. The showrunners knew this and kept you on your toes the entire 5 seasons of the show. Each season became more and more outlandish as the 2 stars' petty behavior backstage and towards one another. The absurd cadence of the dialogue, quick cuts, and the insane pace of the action in every episode made for the long shooting schedules and lots of frustration, and not the sexual kind. But you gotta give them credit, as the audience never felt there was anything but the honest sexual will they won't they tension every episode, as both Willis and Shepherd always delivered the goods. This love-hate relationship, showcased with witty dialogue by the characters, built the 3-alarm fire of passion viewers felt, but it was fueled by the actors' disdain and on-set arguments that were held right up until the director yelled, "Action!" After all the pent-up energy on screen, when they finally did the dirty, the audience lit a collective cigarette. Now, that's some acting. Yes, the sex ruined the relationship. On screen, that is. Something was lost and the show just got more batshit crazy. Moonlighting broke so many rules. Just watch that Cuckoo Bananas last episode where I think the whole cast couldn't wait to hear, "That's a wrap." Whatever happened to quality TV?
If you think so.
Yeah, I think so, definitely.
This 70s into the 80s romantic action crime dramedy gave the world something to aspire to. They were rich, they were attractive, and they solved crimes together, all while being married. It's the only full-on married couple from start to finish, and their healthy sex life puts them at the top of my Valentine TV couples. Hart to Hart debuted during the tail end of Jiggle TV, but Jennifer was classed up in anything she wore, or didn't. Mrs. Hart goes through the transition from 1979 disco and roller skating to a time where the 80s was finding themselves in shoulder pads. Like Remington Steele, Jonathan is traditionally classy, but can also pull off the brawny man look of masculine outdoorsman like he's channeling Steve Austin when he needs to. They were a genuine couple who, even while solving a crime, found any time to flirt, even the most inopportune times filled with danger. Max was their driver, chef, and handyman. He ran the house and took care of their pampered little pooch, Freeway. Max was played by Lionel Stander, who many of you might recognize as the voice of Cup, the old codger from the 1986 animated Transformers movie. This third wheel got involved with almost all the cases and was witness to this pair's deep love connection when they would wind down after a mystery with a sensual massage or champagne in bed. They also shared something rare at the time, their feelings on kids. Hart to Hart were a happily married, perfectly content couple who did everything together, from solving mysteries to taking bubble baths. Whatever was vexing them couldn't be handled with a good dose of sex. Those are some of my favorite Gen X TV couples that I salute this Valentine's Day, a blend of sex appeal, sexual tension, and sexual energy. Who are some of your favorite hot couples of the 70s and 80s TV? Let us all know in the comments, and don't forget to give me a like if you enjoyed this sensually charged Valentine episode. Consider subscribing and look for more great content on the channel. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, and until next time.